From United Nations Television, this is UN in Action.
Vevčani. This mountain village in the western region of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia dates back to the 7th century. Emilia Popesca, who has lived here all her life, has watched its population dwindle to 2,500 today, barely more than half of what it was. She worries that Vevčani could be the next victim of a trend that has left empty houses and abandoned villages scattered across the land.
It would be sad if the natural tragedy that has happened to many other Macedonian villages happens to Vevčani as well.
The population in this tiny Balkan nation is shrinking as people leave for opportunities abroad. And its birth rate has plummeted as women in pursuit of education and career are increasingly delaying their marriage and choosing to have smaller families with just 1 or 2 children. If this trend continues, a United Nations Population Fund or a UNFPA report predicts this country of 2 million could lose 15% of its population in the next 40 years. Spiro Ristovski, the country's labor and social policy minister, says boosting the fertility rate, now on average less than 1.5 children per woman, has become a necessity.
As we're developing a society, we cannot afford to lose population.
And in 2008, the government started a financial incentive plan, offering to pay women to have a 3rd child, 120 euros a month for 10 years, more than 1/3 of the average monthly income. A year later, the state statistical office registered a 13% increase in the number of families with a 3rd child. But whether or not these births are related to the government incentive policy is still too early to say. Emilia is one of the women who gave birth to a 3rd child, a healthy boy named Lupsho. She said she was intrigued by the government offer, but that's not why she went for another child.
The financial factor was not a decisive one at all. It was mainly our wish.
After having 2 daughters, she and her husband Vlado wanted to have a boy, following a centuries-old tradition that regards man as the head of the household.
We want to ensure that the family line continues, and this is why the male child is so important.
Deciding family size is a complex issue involving more than just financial factors, says Tatiana Sikoska, former UNFPA's country program coordinator.
If we look at the story of Emilia, we would see that the persistence of the tradition, the culture, which is more prevalent in rural settlements, is a strong pushing factor for a woman to decide to go for 2, 3, 4 or more children.
It would be bad and sad to forget and see our heritage erased and destroyed. How can I contribute? I can only give birth to a child. But when the child grows up, he has to find a job and establish a family.
Paying families to have more children is not enough to stop the country's population decline. It is also important to improve economic conditions, keeping people from moving abroad.
The state should invest a lot in our village. To open up factories, regional offices and institutions so the population can stay here.
This report was prepared by Patricia Chan for the United Nations.